All right, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be talking about cancel culture and how it should be canceled. The reason I'm saying that is because, um, when you look at the nature behind cancel culture and what really drives it, there isn't a specific certain type of extreme behavior that they're trying to cancel. It's more that they're just people, and again, too, not to say that at the beginning, not to say that none of these statements or desires to cancel something have any type of credibility, but it's the fact that you look at how broad and how it's kind of like anybody can be targeted by this nature, to where it really loses its draw. It loses any type of credibility because it comes to a point to where you can really look at cancel culture and see that it's just a matter of time before somebody else gets canceled, that you can be part of this process, part of trying to change good and trying to silence evil, and then it turns on you. And so it kind of is just like, well, if anybody is susceptible to this and anybody can get canceled, it really is more of a fear tactic than anything. And it's sad because, like I said, I understand the nature of why we might want to silence evil and silence, hateful speech or hateful projections from people who are sort of famous and have platforms. But the real nature is looking at what the results are. And so that's why I want to discuss the concept that I think we should cancel culture, because it's really inevitably just going to come for everyone, even if that's not the intent. Is that, I've discussed how none of us are perfect, and so that's the nature of it. Is that the moment anybody slips up, the moment anybody speaks out of turn or says something foolish or not informed, that they should be silenced and ostracized from society. And again, it's just this thing where, not to be too critical on it, but it's the same concept as like the Salem witch trials, as the Spanish Inquisition, to where if you question any type of credibility, if you even try to address the concept of cancel culture being wrong, well, then they're going to come for you and they're going to try to cancel you. And so that's the nature of it, as it's really everyone. It's and that's the thing too about it, is if you look at it, it's not like that there's some type of level of moral standards that are having to fall into play in any type of due process that anybody has to go through before they're canceled. It's the second you hear them say anything against what you believe, that you want to silence them. And again, that's a very, very dangerous way to look at things, because, and it's dangerous for everyone. It's dangerous for the people who are seeking to cancel, and it's dangerous for the people who are being canceled, obviously. But the reason I'm talking about how it's dangerous for people who are seeking to cancel is that, to me, if you look at cancel culture, it's a very good example of mental health issues and mental unhappiness, and how it can impact your rational, objective thinking. Because again, I think if you took away the elements of it, you took away that the term cancel culture, that if you look at it, you're going to realize that, just simply trying to silence somebody because they have an opinion other than yourself, I mean, that's really, if you look at the definition of bigotry, that's what that is. It's an intolerance of people with opinions other than your own. And so again, that's why it's just so bad for everyone, because I think a lot of people don't realize that when they're a part of that cancel culture, that they're actually exhibiting and practicing the behavior that they're trying to cancel. So again, it's just a matter of time before that comes for you. And that's, I don't know if it's an actual saying. I believe it is, because I couldn't possibly be the first one to say it, but I was just thinking about that concept that if we all live with that eye for an eye mentality, the world will eventually be blind, because none of us are perfect. None of us get it right 100% of the time. None of us have the right perspective 100% of the time. We all make mistakes. And so again, if that's the thing that's going to break us, and it's going to excommunicate us from society, is simply just making the wrong decision, making the wrong comment. Eventually we're all going to be blind. And again, what kind of way is that to live, where if you mess up at all, you're just cast to the wolves? And again, it's just really important to realize that process, because again, I also think that that's the other thing too about cancel culture, is that, like I said, it's involving mental health and mental unhappiness. And if you look at it, because again too, I can relate to the concept of cancel culture in that there are certainly I say opinions, voices, external factors that I've heard, specifically talking about my own pain, talking about the troops and how they were sent to war to die for nothing, and how it was all conspiracy and this and that, there was one extremist church, I think it was a Southern Baptist church, that was talking about protesting my brother's funeral back when he was killed, because they said that he was killed justifiably, that God had him killed because he was fighting an illegal war. And so again, those are the types of people that certainly, especially in my emotional state of mind, I would have wanted to cancel. And so you look back at that, and yes, I like I said, I understand the nature of that, but I also understand that I would be reacting emotionally from my pain, and so that's why I can sense that this cancel culture is being derived from people's personal pain, where they're just thinking emotionally, and how if we silence any type of feeding of our pain, any type of opposition to our pain, that our pain will go away, it'll subside, it will heal. And that's a sad illusion, because that's one thing I've realized was that, as time went on and I grew and I became stronger, and those comments didn't bother me as much, and I just learned to either avoid them or block them out and just not give them any type of power on my life, that my pain didn't go away. I still needed to do work. I still needed to heal. And like I said, that's why it's really unhealthy for people who are part of cancel culture, who are trying to silence voices that may feed their pain, because it's an illusion that somehow your pain is being derived from external sources, and that you're waiting for the actions or lack of actions of others outside of you to change, and then your pain will subside, which is not true. Your pain will continue because it is an internal source, and those external sources are simply feeding it. They're simply maybe stoking the fire, so to speak, but the fire is an internal source. And if you can't make that distinction, if you constantly are looking for outside sources, you're going to continue to cancel. And like I said, until everything's canceled, and then you're still going to be in pain and wonder why. What can you do? You've silenced all of the sources of your pain, when the fact of the matter is your pain was internal the entire time, and that's why it never helped. It's kind of the same concept as addictions and escapism, is that you're looking for something outside of you to make you better, to make you happier, and again, that's just a temporary fix. It's not anything that will truly heal you, and so it's really important to make that distinction. Again, it's something that there's nothing wrong with, again, trying to avoid those sources. I don't think that there's anything wrong with creating certain safe spaces within reason. But the thing is that I would specifically say is I think it's important not to make every single space online in a society a safe space for you. Because like I said, is that if everyone's pain is going to be reflected into how we create a society, no one's going to be able to talk about anything. Because if people from my line of pain, people who've lost loved ones in war, are able to silence people from talking about the war in any type of negative fashion, if any type of saying they died for nothing, saying they died for oil, saying they, then what are we going to talk about? Who can speak? Who can truly speak? Because there's so much pain out there that affects so many different people in so many different angles that the world will be silent. So again, that's why it's really important not to endorse and support cancel culture, because it's inevitably it's bad for everyone it affects. And then, like I said, the people that are supporting cancel culture just as much as the people that are trying to cancel, because again, that's not going to resolve your pain by trying to silence others who may, again, I want to say, feed your pain. It's not going to prevent that pain from being there. And again, it's just an illusion that's actually helping. And again, that's why it keeps going from source to source to source. There's no real rhyme, rhythm, or reason behind it. And it's because it's not adhering to a specific level of morality. If you want to cancel, neo-Nazis and so forth like that, yes, I mean, I think that's a message that the vast majority of the country has no problem trying to silence that type of hate. But again, when you come to the point where simply not agreeing with certain politics or politicians or certain stances on how society should function, and then that's that deems you. It's like, who decides those things? And like I said, the problem is that you could see so many of the people who have supported that premise having the system turn on themselves. And so it's just this thing of I do think that we need to hold ourselves and hold society to a high standard of ethics and morality, but it needs simply to be that's what we strive for, and that if we see somebody being hated upon, that we feel the strength to stand up for them and to encourage them and have their backs. But to simply say that no one can speak in opposition of what we believe, again, that's just, unfortunately, that's just kind of the root behind a lot of bad things that have happened. And again, it doesn't have to be the source of it doesn't have to be the motivation now. But again, what are we going to describe in 5 years? What is an evil act or an intolerant act? And again, that's the real dangerous thing about trying to silence speech, is not just the fact that, because like I said, who decides what is hate? And again, there's so many different people that would interpret so many different actions and lack of actions. So again, it's one of those things where I certainly think we should discuss it. But simply seeking to cancel it prevents the discussion. It prevents the development to where we can, as a society as a whole, can collectively and calmly decide how we should hold ourselves accountable. And like I said, in a healthy manner. We shouldn't be trying to round people up or prevent them from making a living and get them abolished from society because they made a mistake, or they thought something was humorous and they made a joke in bad taste. I would argue that not one single person in this country put to the standard of cancel culture would pass it. I don't think one single person would be able to speak specifically politically correct, would be able to speak in a manner that would not be able to be discerned as a form of judgment and a form of hate towards another person. There is somebody in this country that can legitimately form an argument that what anybody says is insensitive. So again, that's why it's important not to, because none of us would pass that. But as always, good luck and good night.